Dear friends, today we'll be diving into Psalm 91, a psalm known to bring peace, comfort, and assurance. This psalm has been a refuge for many, and I truly believe it will uplift your spirit as well. Psalm 91 speaks to God's protective power over his people, and it's something I believe we can all apply to our lives, especially in these uncertain times. As I read, I want you to think about your own life, your family, and the situations you're facing right now. This psalm is not just an ancient scripture, but a living, breathing word that applies to your present moment. Psalm 91 verse 1 says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." What an incredible promise. It tells us that if we choose to make God our dwelling place, he promises us his protection. This isn't just a one-time shelter, it's a permanent place of safety. Friends, there's something beautiful about being able to rest in the presence of God. In a world that's constantly moving and demanding more from us, God invites us into his presence, where he shelters us from harm. Verse 2 continues, "I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him I will trust." Trusting God isn't always easy, especially when life feels like it's spinning out of control. But the psalmist gives us a blueprint. Make God your fortress. What do fortresses do? They protect, they shield. When you feel attacked by life's troubles, make God your refuge. Speak it out loud. Declare your trust in him, because when you do, it shifts your focus from the problem to the solution, and that solution is always Jesus. Verse 3 tells us, "Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence." Isn't it comforting to know that God delivers us from every trap and every disease? We've all faced unseen dangers, situations where we didn't even realize we were in trouble until after the fact. But God, in his infinite mercy, protects us from dangers both seen and unseen. Whether it's a physical illness, an emotional wound, or a spiritual battle, God is your deliverer. Verse 4 says, "He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler." The imagery here is so beautiful. Picture a mother bird spreading her wings over her young ones, shielding them from harm. That's what God does for you. His truth, his word, is your shield. So, when lies come against you, when doubt creeps in, use God's truth as your defense. Speak it over your life, over your family. Declare that his word is more powerful than any weapon formed against you. Moving on to verse 5, "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day." Fear is one of the enemy's greatest tools. How often do we lose sleep over things that may never happen? How often do we live in anxiety, fearing what the future holds? But this verse reminds us that when we dwell in God's presence, fear has no place. We don't have to be afraid of the unknown because we serve a God who knows all things. Verse 6 adds, "Nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday." Whether it's the unseen threats that creep in the night or the obvious dangers in broad daylight, God's protection is around us. There's no time of day, no circumstance where God's hand isn't covering us. Verse 7 is even more profound. "1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you." Can you imagine? In the midst of chaos, when it seems like the world around you is crumbling, God promises that it won't touch you. You might see it happening, but it won't destroy you. This isn't a promise of a trouble-free life, but it's an assurance that God will preserve you through it all. Verse 9 goes on, "Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place." Here's the key. We must make God our dwelling place. It's not just about visiting him in times of trouble, but about staying with him, living in his presence. When we do, his protection is constant. As verse 10 reminds us, "No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling." This is a verse many of us have clung to during difficult seasons. The world may be filled with evil, disease, and destruction, but God's promise is that it will not come near you when you dwell in his presence. Verses 11 and 12 say, "For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone." God's protection goes even beyond the physical. He sends his angels to watch over us, to keep us safe in every situation. You may not see them, but rest assured that God's angels are at work in your life. keeping you from harm. Verse 13 says, "You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot." This is a picture of spiritual victory. The enemy may come against you, but through Christ, you have the power to trample over every obstacle, every attack. In verse 14, God says, "Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name." God responds to our love and devotion. When we choose to love him, to set our hearts on him, he promises to deliver us, to lift us up above the trials and tribulations we face. Verse 15 says, "He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him." Isn't it amazing that the God of the universe promises to answer us? When we call on his name, he responds. He's with us in our troubles, not just watching from a distance, but actively delivering us. Finally, verse 16, "With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation." God's ultimate promise is a life filled with his goodness and the assurance of his salvation. This isn't just about living long on earth, it's about living a life that's full of God's presence and knowing that in the end, we will see his salvation. As we wrap up, I want to encourage you to take Psalm 91 to heart. Declare it over your life, over your family. In these uncertain times, cling to God's promises. He is faithful, and he will never leave you nor forsake you. Trust in his protection, dwell in his presence, and know that he is your refuge and strength.